Detectives found 2 clusters of shell casings and a few shell casings near the victim's car. It appears the victim was shot at least 14 to 16 times.
All right, Attorney Penn, your case was position 18, Jameer Pearson.
Yes, Judge, that's correct. Is Ms. Schlissel? I can't see.
I see her.
Okay. And Miss Carmen Givens. Okay, I see her. Right, Your Honor, this is position 18, Jameer Pearson. Mr. Pearson is 14 years old. The incident date is July 24th, 2025. He was arrested on August 7th, 2025. The incident location is 621, I think it's Walting Way in Stone Mountain. Mr. Pearson is currently in custody with no bond on felony murder charges. The victim is a Deontay Brown, who was 17 at the time of his death. And as stated before, the next of kin, his mother, wanted to make a statement at the conclusion of my summation, I guess. On July 24th, 2025, officers responded to a person shot call at the incident location. Upon their arrival, they found an unknown Black male, later identified as the victim, who had been shot multiple times inside a car. He was located in a red Chrysler 300 that was against a tree at the front of the apartment complex. The victim was unable to speak and was taken to Grady Hospital, where he was later pronounced deceased. Officers spoke with a witness who was also the 911 caller, who stated he observed the shooting. The witness saw the victim sitting in his car when he saw 2 males, one with a black hoodie, one in a gray hoodie, began firing shots at the car. The witness also observed the car continuing to move until it hit a tree and ultimately stopped. He saw 2 of the males crouched behind different cars, shooting at the victim's car before the car struck the tree. The suspects then ran around an apartment building, approaching the stopped car from a different side, put on ski masks, and shot about 3 more times. Then they reached into the victim's car and took a black book bag and ran away. The witness did not realize until he looked at his security camera that there were actually 3 males that were walking toward the victim's car. The video shows the 3 males walking toward the car, but they don't show the shooting. Witness stated that he had seen the 3 males together before, walking around the apartment complex smoking. Detectives found 2 clusters of shell casings and a few shell casings near the victim's car. It appears the victim was shot at least 14 to 16 times, and there appears to be at least 2 different guns used. Detectives then met with the property manager, who provided additional surveillance. There are multiple videos, and they show the 3 males walking through the apartment complex, again, up to when they are approaching the victim's car, but not the actual shooting. On surveillance, suspect number 3, which the defendant has been identified, is seen running between buildings 615 and 621. And the surveillance shows after, I'm sorry, I messed up, Your Honor. Okay, on surveillance, the defendant is seen running through the buildings toward the end of the shootings, and surveillance shows after the taking of the victim's black book bag, the other 2 suspects are seen running in that direction as well. The apartment video surveillance goes on to show the 3 males going back to the breezeway of apartments 1 through 4. Surveillance also shows that after the shooting, 2 defendants, suspect 1 and this defendant, are walking through the breezeway. Suspect 1 is seen carrying what appears to be the victim's black book bag to the rear of the breezeway. Sometime later, the 2 suspects, including the one before the court today, are seen leaving together in a black Nissan, and they no longer have the book bag. Maintenance workers were able to identify apartment 3 to be associated with one of the suspects because about 15 minutes prior to the shooting, surveillance showed one particular maintenance worker working in that area, and he stated that he saw the 3 males together. A search warrant was obtained and executed on August 7th of apartment number 3. The apartment belongs to the defendant before the court, his mother. After showing still photos from the surveillance video, the defendant's mother identified her son, Jameer, as the person in the gray jogging suit. Additionally, when the defendant's room was searched, detectives found the clothing and shoes Jameer had on from the date of the incident. Jameer was detained and his mother gave the police permission to speak with him. He was transported to headquarters to be interviewed. Prior to the interview, he was read his juvenile Miranda rights and he chose to speak with the detectives. He initially denied involvement, but ultimately confessed to being at the shooting, but not being the shooter. He identified additional co-defendants as Nardo and Trey. After speaking to the defendant, officers were able to determine a bit of a timeline of events because they were able to go through the victim's phone, and they also have received a number of Instagram messages. Detectives found the victim's phone in his car and saw that the last contact the victim had with anyone was a Telegram audio call minutes before the shooting, and it was from a particular user. The defendant appears in a message group with that person with that same username. Late night, July 23rd, which is the night before the shooting, and into the early morning of the shooting, the defendant is communicating with a now identified co-defendant, Nuruddin Amin. Nuruddin's nickname is Nardo, and Nardo was arrested this past Thursday, September 4th. There are messages going back between the defendant and Nardo about how many pens, meaning vape pens, they may get. Are they still doing that thing tomorrow? What time are they doing it? And how many of us are doing it? Through Instagram messages, detectives found messages from Jameer's account where about 4 hours prior to the shooting, he is sending messages to multiple people that he was going to take down some pens, again, vape pens. Vape pens are being used for moho, some synthetic weed, and the victim was known to sell weed and have access to pens. Jameer is also communicating with someone and it's saying we got to see when he's going to push up. Jameer is making FaceTime calls to the co-defendant Nardo and the third co-defendant, I cannot pronounce his name, Deviat Rakundo, who is nicknamed Trey, who was also arrested this past Thursday, September 4th. They were all communicating throughout the time prior to the shooting and after. Additionally, the day after the incident, July 25th, around 5:30 in the morning, Jameer is messaging with someone saying, we caught an N-word with his pants down. Then starts to talk about what appears to be the contents of the book bag, speaking about how many pens he now has, and mentioning a gun, which officers believe the victim may have had in the car while trying to sell the pens. This is a 14-year-old, Your Honor.
Swear in. Let's give us your camera on.
It says it is. Oh, wait a minute. Let me
There we
open
go.
it. There
Okay.
it is.
Okay, Ms. Givens, if you raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Okay, and please state your name for the court.
It's Carmen Givens.
Okay, and Ms. Givens, if you give the judge some insight about what you think about the defendant receiving bond.
Good morning, Judge. I'm here today as a mother and an officer of the law, asking the court to deny bond to this defendant. I started my career working in DeKalb County Jail, where I witnessed, a lot of youth males coming in with serious charges and would try to them, but some of them you can get through, some of them you could not. But having a son, I just felt like I needed to, try and talk to these kids to give them some insight on making better decisions and not, coming back and forth to the jail. But, today we're not here because of a mistake or a youthful error. The defendant, though he is a juvenile, he's charged with murder, which is one of the most serious crimes here in Georgia. This is not a lapse in judgment that can be excused by the age. This is the intentional taking of a life. My committing this act the defendant has already demonstrated a capacity for violence far beyond what the society can safely overlook. The violent nature of this offense poses an undeniable threat to the community if the defendant is released. As both a mother who knows the value of a child's life and an officer sworn to protect and the public, I cannot ignore the danger he presents. And for this reason, I'm respectfully asking that you deny the bond.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Your Honor, just to close, the state does believe that the defendant poses a significant threat or danger to a person, to the community, or to any property in the community. This is the same neighborhood in which the victim lives. This was an incredibly violent, premeditated attack. The victim never made it outside of the car, but he was shot at 14 to 16 times on both sides of the car. And where the defendant has said that he was there, but he wasn't the shooter. At this point, the state we haven't been able to ascertain exactly who the shooter is. But what we do know from the evidence that we have thus far is that the defendant, at the very least, was part of the planning of this attack and also was trying to benefit from the fruits of the crime afterwards. Secondly, the defendant does pose a significant risk of intimidating witnesses or otherwise obstructing the administration of justice because, again, this is the neighborhood in which he lives. The only witnesses to this crime are neighbors and workers of the apartment complex. So if the court were inclined to give any sort of bond, the state would request that he not live in the place where the incident location was. So he would also need probably another supervising adult.
Attorney Schlissel, do you have any questions for Ms. Gibbons, first of all?
I'm sorry. No, thank you. I'm sorry for
All
your
right.
loss.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbons. You can turn back off your camera and go back on mute. Go ahead, Attorney Schlissel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, Jameer, as was stated, is 14 years old. He resided, prior to his arrest, he was residing with his sister, a 16-year-old, 11-year-old sister, a 4-year-old brother, a 3-year-old sister, and a 2-year-old brother. He was just about to start Stone Mountain High School in 9th grade. He has not had any prior contact with the juvenile justice system. He has not had no prior arrests and has not had significant behavior issues at school, as far as I know. He was actually the following day was about to have a physical done so that he could try out for the football team at the school. Your Honor, he has intentions of going to college after he graduated from high school. His mom explained that he's extremely helpful in the home and the neighborhood. He would help taking out garbage for neighbors, and he was also working at a barber shop helping sweep up the floor and other little things that they needed help with. Your Honor, we would submit that based on the Ayala factors, he is not a risk to a flight. His father and family all live here in Georgia. He has no prior history and would be able, if the court would consider granting him a bond. His mother has identified his maternal grandmother who lives in Atlanta away from this neighborhood because his mother also does not want him to return to the apartment complex where all this happened and where these other youth and their families also reside. So we would also be in agreement with no contact, as well as not returning to that area. Your Honor, we would be asking for a bond in the amount of $25,000 based on the Ayala factors. And at this stage, there is no indication, although it sounds like there's some indication that he may have been involved in some intention to commit a robbery. There's no indication that there was an intent to commit an armed robbery or for him for his participation in the shooting specifically. But as for the Egala factors, we would be asking for a bond in this matter. Thank you.
At this time, the court's going to find that he's a risk to intimidate witnesses and a danger to community and persons and deny bond.
Hey, thanks for watching. Please do let us know in the comments what you thought of this video. If you'd like to support what we do here, the best way to do it is to pick up some of our merch. You can find it at courtroomfiles.com.